Hello and welcome to the big picture. The Indo-Pakistan relations has been going through a period of tumult. The new NDA government's magnanimous and diplomatically smart gesture of inviting the Pakistan Prime Minister, apart from other SAARC leaders, for the swearing-in ceremony raised a lot of hopes. This was followed up by some right gestures in order to bring the peace process between the two countries back on track. Meanwhile, however, borders skirmishes have been occurring, thereby creating tensions between the two countries. Last August, even as the Foreign Secretary level talks were to be held, it was cancelled in the last minute after the Pakistan High Commissioner met Hurriyat leaders in Delhi. Ever since, the relations were frozen, only to be revived with the visit of Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar to Pakistan earlier this month as part of the SAARC initiative. Yesterday, the NDA government deputed its Minister, General V.K. Singh, to attend the Pakistan National Day celebrations at the High Commissioner's residence, where the Hurriyat leaders were also present, kicking up a controversy. In the light of all these developments, we will discuss today where the India-Pakistan relations are heading and if there is coherence on India's part about it. To discuss this, I have with me Salman Haider, former Foreign Secretary, Government of India, Major General retired Ashok Mehta, a security analyst, Siddharth Varadarajan, senior journalist, and on the phone line from Islamabad is senior journalist Mosharraf Zaidi. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Haider, how do you see these chain of events which have been happening as far as the India-Pakistan relations are concerned, culminating with what happened yesterday?
Well, the relationship is accident-prone, as you mentioned, and what you have described is both good intentions as well as unexpected accidents that have held up matters and have taken events in an unanticipated direction. I think that this is not that unusual, unfortunately, between India and Pakistan. Such events tend to happen, which are not scripted by either side, but can happen because there are many other players. Most conspicuously, the ones that we are most conscious of are those who like to make trouble on the borders, who stir up events there and who use arms and armed force in order to create disturbances and thereby make the peace process.
You call that as unscripted?
It's not unscripted by the governments, as far as I can see. Maybe within at least one government, there are elements that would like to create disturbances, but this is not, from my understanding, certainly not what our government is aiming at, but even from the Pakistan side, the indications that have been coming and which have been urged on with great, what shall we say, energy from that side, suggests that now they want a calmer relationship to move on to a more equable Indo-Pak relationship, but they themselves may not be in control of all the elements within their country and also within their system itself.
But how do you look at what happened yesterday? The Pakistan National Day, was it right on part of the Indian government to send its minister there to attend the Pakistan National Day celebrations?
Yes, of course.
And in the presence of the Hurriyat leaders?
Well, yes, of course. I think that it's normal when on National Day we send, we are represented not for the Pakistani National Day alone, but for every National Day. There is a senior representative of the government present to express our sense of relationship, to emphasize the fact that we have diplomatic relations, that we seek ameliorated.
So you don't see anything wrong in that?
No, not
the response. Siddharth, how do you look at it? The response, there's been certain controversy which have been raised about yesterday's meeting, and I want you to look at it first and then go to the other aspects of it and where we are heading. As far as yesterday's meeting was concerned and the tweets which the General V.K. Singh has put out, there's some kind of a controversy which erupted. You think that anybody needs to take it seriously?
I think it's most unfortunate, quite frankly, that the minister chose to tweet his personal feelings about being asked to depute to represent the government of India at that National Day. The fact is that as Minister of State for External Affairs, you have to perform a number of protocol functions, and not just him. I mean, ministers are often asked by the MEA to step in because you have any number of embassies that have formal functions. And, he should have just attended it, and this is part of the government of India's policy. Now, for him to first talk about the importance of doing his duty, implying that what he was performing was a legal and moral act, I think was a needless distinction, a tasteless distinction for him to introduce. And the context is very clear, even if he disputes the interpretation given to the tweeting of the word disgust. He now says that he wasn't expressing his disgust at having attended the function, and I'm glad he's clarified that, but disgust at the way the media has covered this event. I hope that is indeed what he meant. But either way, it's unseemly, it's undignified. The Modi government has shown a certain broad-mindedness in persisting with engaging with Pakistan despite any number of problems and despite its earlier stance, and it is incumbent upon all ministers of the government, and especially the ministers who are in the External Affairs Ministry, to stick to the official position. So to introduce some ambiguity for whatever reason, I think is unfortunate.
Okay, that's interesting. Mosharraf, how is it being viewed in Pakistan? All these developments which have happened, including what happened yesterday, now how is it being viewed in Pakistan?
Well, I think that, it was a very special day yesterday. As you know, because of the security situation, we've not been able to celebrate our Republic Day with the same pomp and circumstance that we would like to. Certainly with nowhere near the pomp and circumstance that mashallah, our friends in India are able to do, in January. And this year was a particularly big year. So just like Indians love to celebrate their Republic Day, we also have a feeling that it just is a nice way to affirm our nationhood and our reason for existing. So, it was a big day. I thought actually the fact that the Modi government decided to send General V.K. Singh to the event was brilliant. I think it was brilliant that he attended. And, I think that in mature minds within the Indian media, within the Indian intelligentsia, I know that they're of one mind on this for the most part. And I know that in Pakistan, it's the same thing. We're looking forward to a day when our Republic Day event is headlined by an Indian Prime Minister as the chief guest. I think that's kind of the vision that normal, progressive people in both countries have in terms of the kind of region we want to live in. And if there's a bit of controversy around this, I've tweeted about it as well. I mean, I thought it was a bit undignified, but if he meant something else, then we have to take him for his word. He's a very accomplished man, and people sometimes, especially soldiers, sometimes are driven by emotion and nationalism more than their sort of sense of diplomatic duty. So I don't think he should be skewered in the way that perhaps he's being skewered, and we just all need to move on and keep building on the relationship.
Okay. Please stay on, Mosharraf. I'll come back to you. We are now joined in on the phone line by Nalin Kohli, national spokesperson of the BJP. Nalin, is there, there have been doubts being expressed about what is it that the government of India wants as far as the relations with Pakistan is concerned. There are certain doubts about there being certain incoherence in the policies and how to go about it. How do you react to what happened yesterday and generally and in the larger sense also? Okay, I think we're not able to get him on the line. Okay, General Ashok Mehta, how do you look at this?
Well, first, as somebody belonging to the army, I would agree entirely with Siddharth that the manner in which the minister, who's a former army chief, behaved was very immature. If he had any reservations about attending a function, a national day, at a time when the Prime Minister of this country has sent a letter of congratulations to Modi, and as you said, that there are efforts now on the part of this government to revive the dialogue. So for a Minister of State, notwithstanding the fact that he is the former Chief of Army Staff, to use words like disgust was pretty disgusting according to me. And therefore, I think...
Despite the clarification which he gave.
Well, I don't know what clarification he gave. Clarifications come later, but the fact that the damage has been done after you've tweeted 200 times this message. Now, that apart, I think what we have to understand is that the India-Pakistan relations are accident-prone, as Salman said, but there is a predictability about this.
Accidents also.
These accidents. See, terror and talks have been going in tandem sometimes. It depends on the scale of the terror attacks. The talks have been halted only when, for a protracted period, when there was the 2001 attack on Parliament and then the 2008 attack in Mumbai. You've had interrupted conversations between India and Pakistan. That is the way it's going to be. That is the way it's going to be, that terror will continue as long as in Pakistan you have non-state actors and the military establishment. So you have non-state and state which is non-state.
No, General Ashok Mehta, the question is this. We are looking at today we are looking at the issue of whether there is coherence as far as India is concerned about the...
No.
So do you see that coherence?
No, I'll tell you why I don't see a coherence on the part of this government, for whom I voted, I must confess. This government started out by trying to say it was different. It has 282 seats. It's not like the previous government. So in order to prove that it was different, it adopted what it called the tough policy. Now, what is this tough policy? That if on the ceasefire line, if there is firing of 10 rounds, you will retaliate by 100 rounds, and the government will say, well, we have shut up their mouths. They actually haven't shut up their mouths, because you can never shut up this conversation which takes place between guns on the two sides.
You call it conversation?
Yeah, this thing has been going on for years, and this will not stop. On the other hand, you tried to be tough by calling off the foreign secretary level talks, and now, for the love of God, why the hell do you send your foreign secretary to Islamabad on a Sark Yatra and you don't hear anything about resumption of talks? Everybody expected that when you send a foreign secretary, you would hear something about resumption of talks. We heard nothing about talks.
We heard nothing about it. Mr. Haider, you know, the last foreign secretary level talks which were scheduled to be held, which was cancelled in August because the Hurriyat leaders met the Pakistan High Commissioner. Now, yesterday, the Pakistan High Commissioner invited a lot of Hurriyat leaders. You know, they were present. Our minister also was present. How do you look at this? You know, this is the confusion in the minds of people that where are we heading?
Well, what I see, unlike Ashok, I didn't vote for the present government. But still, let me say
today seems to be a day of confession.
I don't see incoherence in the policy.
You don't see?
No, because I think we are talking about episodes. Individual episodes, they will be incoherent. There will be ups and downs in individual handling of situations. Situations will be engineered, as I mentioned a little while ago, by people who have a vested interest in bringing negativism into the bilateral relationship. But the broad tendency, and I think this is where the policy element, to me, seems fairly clear, is that broad direction of policy of our government is towards dialogue, towards some kind of enhanced understanding, towards trying to make things better, rather than trying to be tough. Yes, on the line of control, what Ashok just said in terms of there's a local dynamic which can be very damaging and which can be very noisy and which can dislocate the broader parameters.
Process, yes.
But I think that we are.
So you feel that there is certain amount of coherence in the way the government of India is pursuing this?
I do indeed.
You think
yes.
so?
I think that the broad tendency of what we are trying to do, of what we are trying to develop relations with Pakistan, rather than to squeeze them or to put them in cold straw, I think that is visible to me.
You want to react quickly, sir?
Very quickly. In terms of lack of continuity of policy, if not incoherence, as I was trying to explain, that the government initially tried to be tough and said that you cannot talk to the foreign secretary, to the Hurriyat. Okay.
Right.
So they called off the talks. But you have to talk. There is pressure from the United States. There is, after all, why does the Prime Minister send this letter on the National Day? And in this letter, he says that dialogue must take place, but in an atmosphere,
bilateral, bilateral
dialogue, which is free of terror and violence.
Right. That is where the problem seems to lie. Siddharth, as far as the coherence is concerned, as far as today also, last night, the Foreign Secretary again issued a statement that there is no space for a third person in the talks. The talks have to be bilateral and all that. And then, this whole Hurriyat leaders issue and the way it was, the government reacted in August and now yesterday, what kind of signals are these sending? Are all these things sending?
I think the signals are a little bit mixed and confusing, quite frankly. Since you have been trying to discuss the coherence of this government's Pakistan policy, my own 2 words on this is that there is as much coherence or incoherence in the Modi government's policy towards Pakistan as I saw in Manmohan Singh's policy towards Pakistan. In other words, there is an intention to further dialogue and to have further engagement, but somewhere down the line, due largely to reasons of one's own making, there is an inability to take that commitment forward. Now, it's understandable to have a policy which Mr. Modi restated, when he said dialogue in an atmosphere free from terror. I think that's a reasonable demand. It's a fair demand. It's a demand that I think would have takers in Pakistan and, of course, takers internationally. The problem is that when we called off the Foreign Secretary dialogue, not because of a terror attack, but because the High Commissioner met Hurriyat leaders.
Right.
We ended up lowering the bar. Prior to that, it was understood that if we talk, another act of terror would lead to the cessation of dialogue. By making Hurriyat the issue, we have lowered the bar so that now, at some level of Pakistani government, we know how divided the Pakistani establishment is. If all it takes for the anti-dialogue elements in Pakistan to sabotage India-Pakistan talks is to engineer a meeting with the Hurriyat, which really means nothing, quite frankly, then we have made the task of these elements that much easier. Now, I thought the Prime Minister's letter, in again emphasizing the terror-free atmosphere, was a very good step. But by, again, overreacting to the presence of Hurriyat people in the Pakistani National Day reception, I think, it shows a certain confusion of mind, quite frankly.
No, but Siddharth...
it's something that's best avoidable. I mean, if India were to meet... if India were to meet, if the Indian High Commissioner were to meet leaders from POK or representatives of Gilgit-Baltistan movement, that doesn't take away from the bilateral nature of the India-Pakistan dialogue. Just like if we were to meet with, if our ambassador, High Commissioner were to meet with PPP leaders or PML Q leaders or, the MQM leaders, that doesn't take away from the bilateral. So I think we need to, not get lost in the woods, quite frankly, which is what we seem to be doing.
Okay.
Getting diverted by irrelevant issues.
Would you like to come in, Mr. Haider, in this? Would you agree with?
I think what Siddharth has said makes eminent sense to me. I think that's really the way we ought to look at it.
No, one thing is what Siddharth said, what General Ashok Mehta also said, that at certain times you raise the pitch, at certain times you lower the pitch, and does it match the longer term vision?
So I agree that the ups and downs suggest a certain changeability at any rate, and which is not necessarily a very calculated changeability.
Not a calculated.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that the broad tendencies of policy, broad tendency of trying to build relations, of the message that has been referred to, that PM sent to Mr. Nawaz Sharif, well, this is a routine courtesy on this occasion. But on the other hand, these routine courtesies have to be examined and assessed in a particular context. And I think that it is giving a message which is more than just a routine message.
I'll come to you, General Mehta. Mosharraf, one of the problems in this relationship since the last 6 months, since the time India cancelled the foreign secretary level talks in August because the Pakistan High Commissioner met the Hurriyat leaders, and then later the kind of interplay between the Hurriyat and Pakistan in all these things. Why is it that Pakistan insists on Hurriyat, knowing fully the fact that India is very sensitive about this?
Well, actually, so I think there's a bit of, I think that's maybe that viewpoint needs to be informed also by two things. One is that it's not something new, the Hurriyat and meetings at the Commission, meetings between visiting Pakistani dignitaries and the Hurriyat, and Pakistan's view that the voice of the Kashmiris is an important voice. In fact, that is the linchpin of the entire Pakistan-Kashmir policy, is that the right of the people of Kashmir to self-determination is central to that position. So I think there's nothing new or particularly unique about this desire to engage with the Hurriyat on the one hand. On the other, the fact is that there had been a concession that Pakistan already made, because as at least some of your panelists would be aware, the Pakistani Prime Minister was asked not to engage with the Hurriyat, indirectly or directly, during his visit to the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. And therefore, there needs to be a recognition that that request was acceded to, it was accepted, and it was respected. And that was the only request that was made.
But that was overshadowed by what happened in August.
Well, so unfortunately, I think the other big problem with this whole VK Singh event and indeed with the entire relationship is that the politicians and indeed opinionists like myself and others on your show, we also now have to meet a certain standard of nationalism that's been set by the loudest and most irresponsible elements of our national discourses, respectively. So the fact of the matter is that what VK Singh tweeted is only marginally offensive. As a Pakistani, I don't feel that offended. It's not because of a lack of shame or lack of nationalism or patriotism. It's simply that one understands that in sort of heated events, in the heat of emotions, social media is a very damaging thing. There's a minister who's made a tweet which people can have some fun with, but shouldn't become the fulcrum of the national discourse between the two countries.
Okay,
the bilateral relationship is rich with already enough problematic issues that we don't need to populate it with issues like this. So I think there's a collective responsibility on cooling the temperatures between the two countries, and people like the five of us have a great responsibility in that regard.
Okay, I think General Ashok, but I think Mosharraf Zaidi what he's saying
he's absolutely right to an extent, but I say that a minister, no matter what his emotions are, has to behave maturely and has to act according to protocol and policy of the government. Your own personal feelings are not expressed on the social media.
So I won't. No, in fact, if we go by what Mosharraf Zaidi is saying,
I think he's being very generous.
The problem seems to be more within India than.
Yeah, I personally think that this was not a correct action on his part, notwithstanding what his personal feelings are.
No, but that's the.
I just want to make one other quick point.
Will it affect the process?
No, it will not affect the process.
Then I think we should leave it aside.
You should leave it aside. But I want to the government has tied itself in knots on this question of the Hurriyat. You see, Siddharth mentioned that we've lowered the bar or raised the bar, whatever the term for this. The question is that the Hurriyat has been there, will be there, and we have to recognize it. By calling off the talks in August simply because the Pakistan ambassador met the Hurriyat before the talks, and more particularly because India said don't talk to them, but he did still talk to them. He said, well, how could I not talk? They were already inside the building of the embassy. So if you look at all this, when I say we, the government overreacted to this question of the Hurriyat.
Mr. Haider.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that if there's incoherence on one side of the border, there's equal incoherence on the other side.
On the Pakistan side.
That's
right. Right.
And I think that we should remember, after all, if they have a position that has just been explained to us, that the key to the whole thing is Kashmiri opinion, and that Hurriyat is seen as the purveyor of that opinion. Well, does that mean that Pakistan will not talk to India? It does not.
It does not.
And
it has not made any such claims.
Yeah. So therefore, the claim, the sort of role assigned to Hurriyat or to anyone else, and the actual activities on the ground, there's divergence between them.
Absolutely. Mosharraf, very quickly, do you agree with Mr. Salman Haider that if we are talking of certain amount of incoherence in the Indian government side, there is equal amount of incoherence on the Pakistan side also? Mosharraf?
That's incoherence.
I think we lost the line. As Siddharth?
Yeah. If you're asking me the same question.
Yes, same question to you.
Salman Saab is absolutely right. Absolutely. No, Salman Saab is right. And I would say that there is a dynamic process at play here also. That incoherence in India exacerbates incoherence in Pakistan. That becomes an alibi for us to be even more inconsistent in our policy. So this accident-prone nature of the relationship, unfortunately, generates a self-perpetuating dynamic that is unhelpful. In Pakistan, for example, within 24 hours of Jaishankar's visit to Islamabad, I was astonished to hear allegation by the Pakistani defense minister that India is keeping the situation on the line of control tense because we want to sabotage Pakistan's fight against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is really an astonishing charge because why would India have anything, why would we want to sabotage that fight? But this is a myth-making in Pakistan, and it was unfortunate that the defense minister, who's obviously close to the military, chose to say that. So, you have within Pakistan people who blow hot, blow cold. The key is to enlarge or to find ways of enlarging the constituencies for dialogue, the constituencies for peace in both countries, and the best way to accomplish that is to push ahead with dialogue, particularly in areas where tangible progress is possible.
Okay.
And I thought that was what Prime Minister Modi was trying to do.
Okay.
And I would urge that process be speeded up.
Okay, Siddharth. I think on that note we need to end. There are problems, as Mr. Haider rightly said right at the beginning, that it is an accident-prone relationship. But hopefully, in the coming days, we'll see more coherence on the part of both the sides, and hopefully there'll be some progress on the peace front. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue, the big picture, same time tomorrow.